So being a mortgage broker versus working at a bank, which one should you do? That's a pretty common question to ask, especially when you're getting into this career. And I'm going to unpack that for you today because actually they're so different. I've worked myself as a state agency-based mortgage broker and then in an IFA, so a financial planning firm, and then also on my own as an RI, as an AR, sorry. But one thing I can say, which is quite interesting, this is my experience is that side. My sister, she worked as at RBS, so Royal Bank of Scotland, as a mortgage advisor within their company, and they're night and day different. And we, at the time, we're still very close, but at the time she lived with my parents, so I saw her a lot, and we talk about it, compare notes all the time. So it's quite interesting, and I'll tell you how they work. And obviously I've had lots of people within that, but let me share this with you so you know which decision to make for you, which is the right one for you at the end of the day. So got my notes down, let's jump into it. So the very first thing is they are completely different jobs, categorically just different jobs, like so different. So a mortgage broker, like what I was and what you most likely will want to become if you're looking at my channel, they effectively work with what we call either whole of market or what is known as a panel. So it's a range of lenders they can work with. And that could be something from as small as maybe 15, 20 lenders, all the way up to hundreds of lenders, the whole of market, effectively anybody who will deal with a broker that you can work with. This is what you're going to find when you think about mortgage brokers. And so, for example, something like Connells, they're going to be heavily panelled, but still got a good range. I think when I last checked, they're around between 15 and 20 lenders. So that's like a mortgage broker. So they're going to be able to find products to ideally suit your specific, or the client's, not yours, the client's specific situation, depending on what it is. Whereas with a bank, the bank is tied to use, it's known as a tied provider, and they're tied to use products from the bank, or in very rare cases it can be from the banking group. So let's say something like Lloyd's banking group, if you're in their kind of high net worth department, sometimes you are able to go across field to other Lloyd's banking groups, but it's not common, okay? But you are allowed to, so you could go like Halifax, Scottish Widows, things like that. You can go across those potentially if you're in the Lloyd's banking group, is an example of that, but not always. And that's sort of my sister used to talk all the time. It's not as simple as that. She ended up working in high net worth departments, and there were more leeway, but still not as much, anywhere near as much as a mortgage broker would have. So they are completely different roles. The ones which the actual like pros and cons to them. Let's talk about the pros and cons, and let's kind of break those down as the main ones. So let's talk about the pros to being a mortgage broker itself, like a proper broker, what I'd class as. So a proper broker, you are gonna make more money. You'll make more money because you're a commission-based, sales-based role. Whether you are employed, self-employed, doesn't really matter. You're gonna make more money usually than if you're in a bank. You're going to have access to a lot more products, as we said, so you're going to be able to have a lot more freedom and flexibility to be able to get the job done, which makes it more rewarding because it's real problem solving. There's a bit more autonomy usually. You'll be micromanaged, so that's a con. We'll talk about that in a second. But you will have a bit more autonomy and a bit more like freedom to do stuff. And long-term careers prospects is you have the ability to, if you're employed, to take that and go self-employed. Not really so much with the banks. Now the cons though to this, to the kind of mortgage broker one, is that there will be really no work-life balance at all. It's incredibly rare to have work-life balance in that situation. It is going to be very, very, very stressful. It will be stressful. Income will fluctuate because it's commission driven, which is something to be aware of. And truth be told, like I said, the hours can be pretty brutal. So that's kind of that. Now let's talk about the pros and cons then for the banker role. Well, the pros and cons for the banker role are a little bit different. The pros for the banker role, which I used to see this like firsthand with my sister, the work-life balance is ridiculous. Like they don't care about anything. Like they care about getting the right compliance, really, from my experience. So it's all about making sure it's documented right, it's noted right. My sister would see one appointment in the morning and then one appointment in the afternoon. That's it. And that was it. Like, and she would come into work. It was a 9 to 5. She got a parking spot in the center of the city. She got it was insane. The perks were ridiculous. The work-life balance, the money, the benefits. The money was okay, but the benefits were ridiculous. And the ability to she didn't work weekends. She didn't do anything like that. Whereas me at the time, I was working, she was doing 9 till 5. And most of the time, if she was finished, her manager would let her leave at like 3 because there was nothing to do. So she was just kind of sat around. I was working like 7:30 till 7:30, 6 days a week and also half day on a Sunday every once a month. Like completely night and day. And at the time, she was earning good money, but in the end, when she was higher up, she was earning about 45 grand a year, which is a lot of money for like, this is years ago, like a decade ago. That's a lot of money for a mortgage advisor based in an estate in a bank. In the end, and she was getting bonuses and stuff like that. So it was a really good paid job, but that's not the norm. But the pros were pretty cushy. It's a very cushy life, so to speak. It's pretty sweet. However, the cons on that, and there are like big cons with that one, is that like it's a bit soul destroying, really. This is what she found. It's boring. It's soul destroying. There's nothing going on. You can't help people. And it's very computer says no. It's very conveyor belt, and there's no sales environment at all. It's all really like more political, because it's not political as in internal politics of the business, because it is that way. It's more that it's a financial institution. It's the way that it works. So it's a completely different ball game, to be honest with you. And I think that she used to say to me all the time, she was like, she didn't mind it. She ended up becoming she's head of psychology at private school. So like we both ended up moving into more like that type of realm. But it's quite interesting because as in like I do sales psychology and stuff like that, and she's and I run a lot of stuff by her with that. She used to say, it's a bit soul destroying. And the other thing with it is that it doesn't really transfer at all to becoming a mortgage broker, like a real broker, like what I would class. It doesn't transfer. And she knew that because she started in Connells. So she'd gone into that having been a mortgage broker as a proper broker. So she knew the limitations. She talked about it all the time. It's very different. A lot of people who work with the banks, in the banks, don't know the differences. They're like, oh yeah, it's fine. Because they don't actually understand that it is completely different. It is night and day. And but that is a big con. It doesn't transfer well. And I've actually worked with a lot of brokers, and some of them being very successful, but I have to effectively teach them the entire job again, because the job is completely different when you're applying it through a lens of an independent broker. So there's that. Now let's talk about, that's the kind of cons there. Now I want to talk about this kind of main point, the final point, which I think is the bit that needs to be addressed with this, which is that I just don't think that career is going to exist much longer. My sister was made redundant. This was a decade ago. And it's been progressively getting less and less and less and less. And the reason being there's a number of reasons. Gosh, there's a number of reasons. But one of the reasons being that lenders are happy just to use intermediaries, brokers themselves. So they'd rather just go with an intermediary, pay the intermediary a small proculation fee, your commissions, and then let you take the risk and not have to worry about staffing and pensions and national insurance and all that stuff. It's easier for them to do that. And so that's one of the things. Also just kind of that kind of office life. And I think COVID very much put the nail on the coffin for this, but it just doesn't exist in the same way anymore. And I think that's something we have to be aware of. If you're looking to try and get a bank job, you're going to really struggle. Even getting an employed mortgage broker job is pretty difficult nowadays. You're mostly going to be looking at places like Connells, Countrywide, who's owned by Connells, Just Mortgages, L&C, LSL. You're looking at these places that are going to train you and give you an employed role. There's not many of them. There really isn't. You might get an employed role with an independent, which is pretty cool if you do. But again, the independent's got to be turning off enough money and be of the mindset of wanting to have an employee, which most of them don't. So it's pretty tough in general out there for that. Why most people gravitate towards self-employed. But the role of a bank advisor, to be honest, it's what to say, it's an endangered species. I'm going to say it's not quite extinct, but we're getting there. We're very much getting there. And I would say if you're someone watching my content right now, you're people who watch my content, chances are I probably wouldn't go down that route. I'd probably jump straight into trying to get either an employed role from an estate agency-based mortgage broker is normally my advice for that, or trying to get, if you wish to go self-employed straight away, go self-employed and go under a network who's going to give you some support for that. They're normally my two routes in, I think, is the main one. I always still think, though, it's the way I came through. It's the way a lot of my clients come through. The estate agency-based ones are the best. They're like baptism by fire. You'll learn what to do. You'll also learn what not to do, but they'll usually pay for your training, and you'll get money, and you'll get experience fast for about 2 years, and then you can go on your own. That's normally the best way. That's the best way to do it, if you ask me. And the biggest question on top of this one then is being a mortgage broker stressful? Because it can be very stressful, and it is very stressful, especially if you're going down that route. And if you want to know what that stress looks like and how you avoid it and how you manage it, you want to check out this video up on screen. I'll put it up on there right now, where I break that down in a bit more detail as to how you can overcome the stress within a mortgage advisor, so you know what to expect if you go down this role. See you in the next video.